Baker had the perfect recipe. Are the Bills a team of destiny? The Raiders shocked the Chargers. The Falcons looked like farters. And the Eagles lost incredibly. Welcome to the Mish Po. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Week 15 episode of the Mish Po. Just quick little behind the scenes things during the regular season. I recorded these on Thursday or Tuesdays for the most part. And then would do the uploading and everything like that on Wednesdays. But since we're in the playoffs, the matchups for the following week aren't known technically in the system until Wednesday. And so I've been recording the last couple of episodes on Wednesday. And so that compiled with me just kind of being a little bit especially busy today with just a couple things going on. Today is Wednesday. We have Breeze. Breeze got a birthday dinner, and then we've also got Survivor season finale. Not sure if anybody watches that, but doing a little bit of a thing with that from my parents. So I'm going to try to make this episode especially quick and try not to ramble. So with that, we will just jump into obviously the last week's matchups, and I'll just briefly talk about each one. And yeah, so me versus Colin. This one was for the Sacko. It kind of came down to Monday night. It had what Lamar was going to do, or not Lamar, DK Metcalf, what he was going to do against the Eagles. Luckily for me, he needed about 23 points, and he only got about 12. And huge help from James Cook, 36.1 from him. Could have gotten even more had he scored, or not dropped that one touchdown, and been used more on the goal line where Latavius Murray scored, but super happy with his performance. I was able to win, and Colin continues to go down in the toilet bowl. Our next matchup also came down to Monday night, which is Lincoln versus Bruce. Of course, Jalen Hurts over on Bruce's side. He was sick leading into that matchup. Wasn't sure if he was going to play. Of course, he did and got Bruce the W. Fairly close, though, about 13, 12 points separate the two. Lincoln also had Devonta Smith, who had a decent game, but needed a bit more from him. So Bruce moves on into the semifinals of the championship bracket. So congrats to you, Bruce. So way to go. Next up, T-Corn versus Abby, our other championship bracket matchup. This one was not that close. T-Corn had an incredible output of points here, primarily from some of the guys that I gave him in trade. Deontay Johnson, 16.2, but the real star of the show is Christian McCaffrey, of course, 41.7. Also pretty solid stuff from Cooper Kupp. And Jahmyr Gibbs and a couple other guys did pretty solid as well. But T-Corn will be moving on in the championship, seeing if he can get not back-to-back, a two-time champion here. He would join the likes of State Farm, who has done that in just 3 years in the league. This being the fourth, of course. But yeah, that was that matchup. Our next matchup was in the Sacko Bowl. The rest of them, in fact, are in the Sacko Bowl. And we've got Brian versus Sam. I did honestly think that Sam was going to lose this after all the shit I was talking about him this season, and just the fact he was 2-12. But he came through. His team had a solid game. It was fairly close. A couple guys you're not really expecting big games from came through with big performances, mainly Demarcus Robinson, who had almost 15 points. So quite a good performance from him. Singletary did pretty good, and of course, Rachaad White continues to be very good. The number 4 running back on the season. Who would have thought? But Brian continues the swirl in the toilet bowl. Next up, this one to me was not a surprise. Matt continued to just be a great team performance-wise, and he finally had some good luck where he faced a guy that had less points than him. So Matt, of course, got the victory here by about 40 points over Caleb. Very solid performances. Bijan getting negative points is just absolutely brutal. Hopefully for you, Caleb, he can actually score positive this week. Has he gotten? I feel like he went negative before. No, just barely positive for him week 7. So we'll see if he can can get into the plus territory this week as you also continue your flush. And then our last matchup of last week, also a matchup I was fairly confident I knew who would win. Adam versus State, probably our biggest blowout of the week. Adam winning by darn near 60 points ish. So pretty good performance here from Adam's team. Not really, I mean, a bit of a dud from Pat, but other than him, and then the Jags defense. But I mean, that's not the worst score you could get from a defense. But yeah, other than those two guys, you had guys just going off. And so Adam also will not be a Sacko. And State will continue that swirl. We'll see if he can become the first ever. He became the first ever two-time champ. Now we'll see if he becomes the first ever two-time Sacko, which honestly would be quite hilarious. So yeah, I do not have a power ranking this week. I didn't think it was that necessary. So we'll just jump into this week's next, or the week 15 matchups. First up, me versus Adam. This one is just to move on to the next, for the standings in the consolation bracket. I believe the best place one of these two teams could finish is 7th. So this is kind of like the battle for 7th through 10th, I think, is what the range that these two teams will definitely finish at. Decent players on both teams here. I don't know if there's any injuries that are possible. Josh Jacobs didn't play, so he might be back in the action for Adam there. Other than that, I mean, it seems like it's going to be a pretty close matchup here. I'm just going to pick myself. Maybe we'll throw Clyde on there. I don't know. But Sacko seems to be back, so maybe not the great idea. But I do have some very solid players going in this matchup, as I have mentioned before. But yeah, I'm going to go with myself here. It's probably going to be pretty close if I had to predict. But I will be picking myself. Our first of two playoff matchups, Michael versus Bruce. This one should be a pretty exciting showdown. I think number one seed here in Michael, and then Bruce. He's been pretty solid all year. Record is almost 50. Almost tied. But yeah, we had some good performances from. I guess I don't really know how Michael's team did last week. Didn't look at the scores, but Kenneth Walker, I know, did pretty solid. I don't know if Amon Ra did all that great. Oh, just kidding. He did really good. But I know Brandon Ayuk didn't do all that great. So let's see if he can rebound from Michael. Yeah, only 6.7. Some other performances, though. Hopefully he gets Tyreek back. That would be a huge hit for him, especially with that Tua stack. I have Tua Tyreek stack in another league where I'm in the champion or in the playoffs. So I'm hoping those guys have a big game as well. But yeah, just kind of looking at these different players here. Obviously, Sam Laporta went absolutely off last week. He's probably a big reason why Lincoln got knocked out and Bruce moved on. He had that big game last week with that garbage time touchdown. Season high for points for him. So I think I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to pick Michael. I think it could go either way, but I'm going to pick Michael in this matchup. And yeah, next up, we've got Fiala versus T-Corn. And I feel like I've already kind of hinted at who I think is going to win this matchup. I said last week in my predictions that I think T-Corn would win the whole thing. And I am sticking to that right off the bat. But should he lose, I do think Fiala will win the whole thing. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say whoever wins this matchup will be our champion. Both teams are capable of putting up huge numbers. Both teams obviously have very good players. That's why they're able to do that. Travis Kelce had a bit of a down week last week, and has had a bit of a down season this year. So we'll see if he can rebound. But I mean, you've got Christian McCaffrey, you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got CeeDee Lamb, you've got Brees and Jameer and Justin Fields. I really don't see how T-Corn loses this. I mean, obviously all those guys could suck, but Christian McCaffrey, he's definitely the number one freaking player in the entire league fantasy wise right now. So Yeah, I think Tigran's going to win this, but obviously stranger things have happened. Moving on to our next matchup, Abby versus Lincoln. This is the 5th place matchup, the only matchup this week where there's going to be an actual seeding that is going to be as the result of it, as they both lost last week in the playoffs. Obviously, both teams have solid players. They were in the playoffs for a reason. And, obviously, this is a given, but it's just going to come down to if the guys can perform the way they should. And just kind of looking across the board here, I'm going to pick Abby here. I do think Lincoln's got some good players. Jaden Reed is questionable, though, so that's if Thielen hasn't been as great. Kyle Pitts plays for Arthur Smith, so what can you really do there? But yeah, I mean, you have obviously good players over here for Lincoln, but I will be picking Abby, and I do think she'll be 5th place this season. Moving us on to our next matchup, a battle of two losers from last week, continuing in the toilet bowl. Caleb versus Brian. Solid running backs over here. Both Atlanta guys are in this matchup for running backs, so that's kind of cool. Obviously, pretty good receivers. Jamar Chase will be missing this week, so that's unfortunate for Caleb. But I mean, the rest of the players are good. Shorten. I don't think he got a touchdown last week. He's his streak of, I guess it was just 2 at the time, but he's been a touchdown machine. Well, hopefully for you, he gets another one this upcoming week. But I think I will be going with Brian here. Like I said, you are missing Jamar. You will have to plug in someone like Khalif Raymond or I don't know, Kenny Gainwell. So that's not great for you. Maybe you will pick someone up before now and then, but I do think Brian will will win this matchup and send Caleb to the Sacko Bowl. Speaking of Sacko Bowl, we've got Colin versus State, the other half of that bracket. Both obviously lost last week. Two very mobile quarterbacks here, and some aging running backs in Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler, both not playing up to their standards as they have shown in the last couple seasons. Keenan Allen, we'll see if he can give it a go and assist Jalen Waddle. He had a great week last week. A lot of it from that one really long touchdown, and the dogs are getting crazy behind me. They do need a walk. After this recording, I will give them that. So, we've just got some guys kind of all over the board here in this matchup, and it's obviously very important they all come out and play this week. And just kind of looking at what we've got, I will think, yeah, I'm going to go with State Farm here, sending Colin to the that Sacko Championship Bowl thing. I do kind of hope State wins so that he can become the first ever 2-time champ and 2-time Sacko in just 4 years in the league. That would be honestly very funny. So I think State will win, but I'm hoping that he loses. No offense there. Speaking of, we've got Sam and Matt in the winners section of the losers bracket, as both teams came away with a dub last week. Also playing for that 7 through 10 range of standings. It's not really quite. I think Matt's going to win. I've been saying his team has been very good all season. Been saying Sam's team has not been very good all season, despite the win last week. And so I would be picking Matt here. His team is just freaking rock solid. And like I said, we definitely should add the league median into this league next year to, make it more fair, I guess you could say, considering two of the, well, I guess there's been an update. I don't know if you saw on Sleeper, but there's an update. I don't know if it shows here, but in the matchup on your phone, it says when you pull up the matchup, it says where you rank for points for and points against. When I looked at it, I was number 8 for points for, so not obviously the best, but I'm number 3 for points against. I can't look at what everyone else's is. Obviously, you could just look, down here, but it's nice to just have that be shown on your screen when you pull up the app. So, but yeah, so yeah, that's all of this week's matchups, the semifinals, in both brackets, I guess, for most teams. And so, yeah, it should be a fun time for everybody except for those 4 teams that could potentially be in the Sacko Bowl next week. I'm glad that I'm not there, and yeah, I could really care less if I win again this season. In fact, it's probably better so that I get a better pick at my pick for next year. But I'll still obviously set a lineup, but I could really care less if I win. So, yeah, good luck to everybody. I will say good luck to my opponent this week, who is Colin. Or sorry, I faced Colin last week. Who is Adam? You know, hope you win. Couldn't, it'd be cool if I won, but I wish you all the best of luck. So yeah, with that, thank you and thank you.